welcome to episode 41 of the Catherine Crochets podcast. Hello, my name's Catherine. I'm a crochet designer from South London in the UK, and welcome to my podcast where I like to share all the recent crochet, knitting, yarny things that I've been up to recently. I've got crochet and knitting to share with you today, and also for the first time ever some hand-dyed yarn that I've made. I went on a yarn dyeing retreat last weekend, which was a really wonderful couple of days, and I've got the yarn with me to share with you in the podcast today. So I'll get onto that a bit later, and I'll start with the things that I've actually been making. Just realised I'd forgotten a few things, so I just nipped off and got them, but I think I've got everything with me now. If not, obviously I can pause again and go and get them. But yeah, before I start talking about the projects, I just wanted to mention that I'll pop links, if there's any patterns that you're interested in, I'll pop links to all of the patterns I mention in the description below, and also links to all the other places where you can find me on social media and where you can find my patterns if you're interested. And I'll also put a link to my email list if you'd like to sign up. So the first project that I have to share with you is finished. It's a finished crochet project, and I shared it at least in the last podcast, possibly in the one before. So I'm not going to talk about it too much because some of you, if you're a returning viewer, will have heard it already. So if you haven't heard me talk about it before, then feel free to go back and watch previous episodes. But this is the Astrid Shawl or scarf, I can't remember. I think it's the Astrid Shawl, and it's a pattern by Tatiana of Lillebjorn Crochets, and it's not quite triangular. It starts at a point, it gets wider, it's got the reason it's not triangular is it's got a straight, not very long, but a straight middle section, and then it decreases back to a point again. It's made with what was a brand new technique to me. As I said, I'm just going to sort of whiz through this a bit because I have said it before, but it's crochet short rows. So you sort of go, when you work from one side to the other, you go forward a few stitches, back a bit, forward a few more, back a bit, forward a few more, back a bit, and you keep going backwards and forwards like that until you get to one end, wiggle about a bit at the end, and then come all the way back the other way. And that's what gives these kind of slanting diagonal lines. I think, yeah, there, you can just see them. And also working in the back loop only as well gives it this lovely texture. It's quite stretchy. I haven't actually blocked this yet, so I think it might grow a bit on washing and blocking, though I have worn it a few times. And it's a really soft, squishy fabric, quite stretchy, and it's really, really warm. I made this with a sock yarn, which is, I think, 85% merino, 15% nylon, something like that, a sort of merino and nylon sock yarn composition, and it is really, really cozy. I'll just pop it on to show you what it looks like, but I've only worn it a couple of times because it's actually relatively mild here still. We're getting some days where it's like 15, 16 degrees. So I did get really, really warm the few times I've worn it, but I think it's going to be perfect when the weather does get properly cold over the winter. I really love the colour and just the chunky, cozy, squishy texture and feel. It's got a really nice weight to it as well. Yeah, so the pattern is by Tatiana of Lillebjorn Crochets. The yarn I used was from Lay Family Yarns, and it is the Wonderland Walks colourway, which was actually designed by Ali from Little Drops of Wonderful. And I had two 100 gram skeins of it. The pattern is written for a sport weight yarn, but it's one of those patterns where once you've got the repeat going, it just says keep doing the increases or whatever until you've gone this far, and there's various options depending on what size you want to end up with. I think I was making the medium size, I can't remember, but I was just using the measurements as a rough guide anyway. So yeah, I was using a slightly thinner yarn, but it doesn't matter at all because you can just keep going to make it as big as you want. But because I had 2 skeins, I knew that when I finished the first skein, that had to be a bit further than the halfway point, because I needed, from the second skein, I needed to finish off the shawl and do the edging. But I had it in my head for some reason, I just hadn't looked at the pattern, which was a bit silly. But I had it in my head that there was only 1 round of crocheting for the edging, whereas actually it doesn't really look like it, but it actually takes 4 rounds to create the edging. So when I got to the final point, I could see how much yarn I had left, and I was a bit worried that I wasn't going to be able to complete the edging or do all 4 rounds of it. I thought it will probably be all right, but I did manage to do 4 rounds of edging, even though I'd only sort of budgeted or allowed enough for what I thought would be enough for a single round plus a bit extra. Turned out I'd actually been quite generous, and I did have enough to do 4 rounds of edging, and I just had this teeny bit left over. So that was, yeah, a big success. I was really pleased about that, because I do think that adding all 4 rounds of edging it's a bit hard to see, but it does just finish it off really, really nicely. Yeah, so that's the I was about to call it the Wonderland Walk Shawl, but it's not. That was the yarn. This is the Astrid Shawl by Loveful Crochet, and I'll pop the link below if you're interested. But that's my first, it's not my only, but that is my first crochet finished object. My next finished object, crochet finished object, is a beanie. And I talked about this project a bit in the previous episode, and I showed you some swatches that I've been doing of colourwork patterns with different stitches, different colourwork patterns for a new beanie design that I wanted to make using this yarn. In the end, I don't think I actually went for any of the colourwork patterns that I had swatched. I don't think I'd swatched it, but this colourwork pattern that I've gone for in this beanie it's the same as the colourwork pattern that I actually used in my Arda Mittens, which is another pattern of mine, although that's designed with a slightly thinner yarn. This is a DK yarn, so it's a bit thicker, obviously, than a thinner yarn. So the Arda Mittens were made with a 4-ply yarn, but it's the same colourwork pattern, and I really enjoyed it when I made the Arda Mittens, and at the time I thought I definitely want to use that colourwork pattern. It's quite simple, but I think it's quite effective in another design. And so sort of when I remembered that, and I've been playing about with different patterns, I thought, actually, you know what, I'd like to use it in this beanie design. So this is the Whittaker beanie, and it's finished, and it's made with Sirdar's Loveful, I always muddle up the order of the words for this, Loveful recycled tweed blend, and it's in birch and a blue. I think the blue is called Pool. I can't remember off the top of my head though. It's made with tapestry crochet to create the colourwork pattern, and then you add on the ribbing at the end. Also made a second one in, it's the same white, but with the maroon, and obviously I've used the white this time as the contrast colour instead of the main colour. And I've written up the pattern, and it's currently out being tested. I've got some brilliant feedback from my testers, many of whom have already made their hats. One's actually made 3 for her husband and her 2 children, which is brilliant, and they've also already own Arda Mittens, so they're nice and coordinating. But yeah, I'm hoping to release the pattern. I'm planning on releasing the pattern later this month. It'll be probably I don't know the exact date yet, but it'll be the 20-something of November, around about. And I'm going to give my email list a coupon code so that they can get the pattern for free. So if you would like to get the Arda beanie pattern for free, sign up to my email list at the link below, and when the pattern is released, you'll get a coupon code that can be used for, I don't know exactly how long, a few days or a week, for you to get the pattern for free if you'd like it. I'm currently working on a third one, which is in opposite colours to these, and this one just needs the ribbing adding to it. And I'm gonna film, I've already got tutorials on this channel showing quite a few of the techniques used, like the foundation stitch, tapestry crochet with this particular type of stitch. But I'm going to film a tutorial showing how to add the ribbing on as well to sort of go with the pattern. The pattern instructions will be complete without it. All my testers are making it without the tutorial. But that will be there just for those who would like to see how it's done, if they're perhaps if you've not added ribbing onto a hat in this way before. Sometimes it's helpful to see a demonstration. So I'll be filming a tutorial for the ribbing soon, and yeah, patterns coming later this month. So I've got 3 now. I've got 2, well, nearly 3. I've got the 2 blue and white, and I've got 1 maroon and white, and then I'm going to make a 4th one as well with these 2 colours flipped. So with white as the main colour and maroon for the colour work and the ribbing. So then I'll have 4 all together. And I just thought, having all 4 of them, might be quite good for photos and just gives people more ideas of the sort of colours that they can use when they make it. So yeah, that's the Whittaker beanie, and it will be coming later this month. I'm going to move on to knitting for a little bit now, and then I'll switch back to a bit more crochet again in a bit. But I have finally finished, I think these were in a podcast. I say these, one of these was in a podcast earlier this year, but I've finally finished my Book Nook socks. And this is a project that I started, I can't remember the exact month, I meant to check, but I forgot, but possibly January, February time, a long time ago now, with my friend Emma from Emma C Makes, and we both decided to make these socks together at the same time. There's different versions in the pattern, and Emma did a slightly different option to the one I chose, but it's the same pattern. Emma finished hers months ago, and I have finally finished my last one, my second sock, this week. So I am really pleased with the socks. I think they look great. They've got it's ribbed, and then I went for the option where you have this cabling down sort of every other rib. I think Emma just did the option with plain ribs. And the other thing that's slightly unique to me about these socks is the garter stitch sole, which I really like as well, because it's really soft and squishy. So I'm really happy with how the socks turned out. Love the colour. It's some hand-dyed yarn from Strictly Hand-Dyed that I bought at a yarn festival in London a couple of years ago. So I'm very happy with the socks. However, the process of making them, these weren't my favourite socks to knit. I've knitted quite a few pairs of socks now, possibly getting on for 7 or 8. I've not counted them, maybe not quite 10, but quite a few pairs. And generally I may have made vanilla socks. I have made one with a sort of simple, very simple, I think you'd call it lace design, though it wasn't too open. But normally I knit vanilla socks. This was my first go at cabling. It's quite a simple cable. So I thought it was a good one to try. And whilst I do love the effect, I think it looks really nice, I didn't enjoy the process of making the cables. So I think it was every 6 or 7 rounds, you have to do the cabling with the cable needle, and the whole sort of stopping to put the stitches on your cable needle, making sure the cable needle didn't fall out, which it did once or twice when I was starting, to do the cables. And then I just found the sort of extra awkwardness of doing that. It kind of got in the way of the just enjoyable, relaxing knit. So I wouldn't rush to do cabling again. I would make this pattern again, but possibly the version without the cables, because I do really like the socks and I'd like the idea of another ribbed pair. But in terms of the process and enjoying the process of making them, the cabling was a bit much for me, which I think is why these socks have taken me so long to finish off. But yeah, they're done now. I'm really looking forward to wearing them and having them. And I'll show you in a moment, I've already actually made and completed another sock, which I will show you right now. So as I said, I've finished another sock already, and it's this one. I think this is probably the quickest sock I've knitted to date. I started it, we went away on holiday during October half term, and I just wanted a small travel project to take with me. So I decided to take a sock. So I started it towards the end of October, and well, it's not even halfway through November now, is it? So this was a super quick make for me. It's just a simple vanilla sock. I used the Shorty sock pattern from Emma C Makes, which I've used before. And the yarn that I used to make it with was, I showed it to you last time, it is the Zauberball from Shoppelwoll, and this is also I can't remember if it's Shoppelwoll or Shoppelwolle, might be Shoppelwolle, and this is also their yarn, but not a Zauberball. So I'm using these two yarns to make it, obviously the Zauberball for the main bit, and then the sort of ochre yellow colour for the toe, heel and the cuff. And I had expected, it surprised me a little bit, looking at the Zauberball, it looks like there's really defined sections of different colour yarn. So I was expecting it to come out in quite defined stripes, but actually the stripes are a bit more, I mean, they're still quite clear, aren't they? But they're the sort of transition between all of them. It's not a crisp, sharp line like I was expecting. It's a little bit more blurred, but I still like it. So yeah, I'm really pleased to have that one done so fast. Part of the reason I finished it so quickly was because, as I mentioned earlier, I was away on a yarn dyeing weekend this last weekend, and between the yarn dyeing sessions we had time to work on our projects and drink tea and coffee and chat and make friends. So I was on the foot stage by that point. I got down, I think I got down just past the hill on holiday, and then I got the majority of the foot done on the weekend. So earlier this week, I just finished off the last bit of the foot and the toe. I'm not going to make the second sock just yet, because I've got a different pair of socks that I want to make first, which I'll tell you about in a little bit. But I would really like to have those made for Christmas. So I'm going to park this yarn for a little while I work on a different pair of socks, and yeah, and then probably come back to this and make the second sock in the new year, something like that. But yeah, quite happy with that. And this is the yarn that I bought. If you saw the previous episode, I bought this while my husband and I were away in Hamburg for a few days at the end of the summer, from a lovely German yarn shop in Hamburg. So it's nice to use it so soon after buying it, because sometimes you buy nice yarn and it takes months before you get around to using it. But yeah, pleased to have used it and made a sock already. So I'm not going to tell you about the other sock just yet. I've got one more crochet project to share with you, and then I'll tell you all about the yarn dyeing weekend and the sock that I now want to make, or the pair of socks that I now want to make following that weekend. So the final crochet project that I have to share with you today is my Canalboat Blanket. I started this, I think it was in about January, soon after. It's a pattern from Attic 24, or from Lucy at Attic 24. I think she released it in January this year, and I started it soon after she released it, but I'm not using her colours. Lucy's colours are bright reds, greens, pinks, blues, yellows, like the bright paint patterns that you get on traditional narrow boats. But I've made mine as it's a stash buster, and I just picked lots of more muted, natural earthy colours from my stash, all different. It's all acrylic DK yarn, but all different makes. And yeah, so it's a stash buster. I started it earlier in the year, so you might have seen it a few months ago, because I think I shared it on a podcast then, but I didn't work on it over the summer because it's got quite big now, and it was just start getting to the point in the year when it gets too hot and you don't want to sit under a big cozy blanket while you're crocheting. So I decided to put it away, work on some other things over the summer and bring it out again in the autumn, which I have done. And it's grown. I've added on, let me see, so since I put it away, I picked it up again, I think it was about here, this yellow, and I've added these more rows onto it since I've been working on it again. It's past the halfway point now. I've worked out I've done about 2/3 of it, so another third to go. As I said, it's a stash buster. I'm doing the colours in a random order, so I've got a big bag of balls, and I'm just putting my hand in, picking out a ball and adding that as the next stripe. I'm not worrying about balance with the colours or making sure there's a contrast between them all. Sometimes there's not much of a contrast and sometimes there's a lot, but I'm not worrying about any of that. I'm just counting on the fact that overall the whole blanket should be balanced, which I think it is so far, and it is truly random. So once I've gone through all the balls once, I muddle them up again and then go through them all again. So I've been through them all 4 times. I've put a little pin, safety pin or stitch marker in the side of the blanket each time I've gone through all the balls once. I've gone through them all now 4 times, and I'm going to do them 2 more times and then call it a day. I think it'll be about single bed size by then. So I think that's a really good size for a blanket. So it's a really lovely pattern. As I said, I'll put a link to it below. It's just a simple 4-row repeat. So you have 2 rows the same colour, this row, and was it 5 rows? No, it's 4 rows. 4 rows. Yeah, so you have a solid stripe, and then these 2 rows on either side of these shell rows, fan rows, can't remember what they call them, but yeah, 4 rows. Really easy to remember, really relaxing to work on, really easy. Pattern, like all of Lucy's patterns, is really, really clear, and yeah, I'm just enjoying putting it out when I want something easy and relaxing to work on the evenings. So that's my Canalboat blanket. So as I said, I went away on a yarn dyeing workshop last weekend, and this was with Lay Family Yarn, Kelly and Nick from Lay Family Yarn over in Ironbridge in Shropshire. I think it's in Shropshire. And I'm sure many of you know about this already. Lots of other vloggers on YouTube have shared their weekends before, so you might have already seen one. So I didn't video any of it. Got a few pictures of my yarn dyeing process, but other than that, I was just there enjoying the weekend, which was lovely. So the main focus of the weekend is obviously, well, I say the main focus, the advertised purpose of the weekend is dyeing yarn, which is obviously a really, really exciting part of the weekend, but also I think an equally wonderful and brilliant part of the weekend is just spending time with other knitters and crocheters and people who love yarn, and just making new yarny friends, spending time working on projects, drinking tea and coffee, eating yummy food, and just talking about knitting and crochet with other like-minded people. So I think for me, the 2 things, the yarn dyeing and the making friends and spending time knitting and crocheting with them, was both equally brilliant and wonderful. I don't know, it'd be hard to choose. Not that I have to, no one's asked me to, but it would be hard to choose which was better. Anyway, so I thought I'd talk you through a little bit about how I dyed the yarn, which I don't know all the technical steps, to be honest, but I'll share with you some pictures and talk you through what I did. So before you go on the weekend, Kelly and Nick, they suggest that you have a think about what sort of colours you might want to use to dye your yarn, and you could bring along perhaps an inspirational photo or image, or could be anything, but something, if you want to, which has the colours in it, the sort of thing that you want to dye. So I was racking my brains beforehand thinking, what colours do I like, and also what might be potentially a bit meaningful. So to start with, my initial idea, which I was quite taken with, was some photos that I had of the woods near us. I'll put them up on the screen. During the spring when all the bluebells were out, and I thought I could get the different shades of green, the light and dark, some in the sunshine, some not, and obviously the gorgeous blue of the bluebells, possibly some speckles of brown for the trees. So that was one idea, which I did really like, but it's not the one I went for, because on Friday morning before I went, I was getting the photos and I thought I'd print them out to take with me. And I thought, I'm not 100% sold on this colourway as a colour that I'd want to use, or I've got a lot of blue and green yarns already. So I thought, what else could I do? And the yarn that you dye is sock yarn, and so the obvious thing to make is socks. So I thought, well, what about making some Christmas socks? So then that got me thinking about Christmas colours, and pomegranate, I'm not sure where it popped into my head. So I found this photo of some pomegranate seeds just online, and I took that along as my inspiration, and thinking that I'd focus on the reds, the dark, deep reddy purples, possibly some speckles of white was my thinking for the pith, you know, the whitey cream bit inside the pomegranate. I don't know if it's called pith, but the bit inside that's not the seeds, and some really dark colours as well to get that like rich shininess. So that's what I decided to go for, and I thought I could pair it with a rich green yarn as well, perhaps, to make some socks afterwards. So when you're dyeing your yarn, the first step is to choose which colour dyes you're going to use, and there's, I think, around 100 or just over 100 different colours that they've got available for you to choose. So one by one you go up with your inspiration, and you chat to Nick and he helps you choose. And you have to choose 3 main colours that you're going to use to dye your yarn, and 1 colour to speckle over it afterwards. Some people, that speckle was the same as one of their main colours. They just get a more like deeper, richer version of one of their main colours. Some people, like me, chose a 4th colour for their speckle. Then when you come to dye the yarn, we all went into the yarn dyeing room we did it in groups of 6. There were 18 of us all together. And you add your first colour in stripes. So I'll put up pictures showing this. Then you add your second colour in sort of stripes across the yarn in between it. And then you add your 3rd colour in stripes in between that. If you want it all kind of merged together, then you can use a slotted spoon and you kind of gently pat the yarn down in the water, in the dye, to kind of mush it about a bit and help ensure that all the yarn is covered with dye. Some people wanted their different colours more defined and separate, and so they didn't do the spoon. And then the final step is to add the speckle. And you do this with a little paintbrush, and you get some of the dye powder on the end of the brush, and you just really gently tap it over your yarn in the tray. And that's quite an exciting stage, because the speckles don't appear immediately. They take a few seconds before they appear. So you have to do it slowly, otherwise you could end up speckling away thinking nothing was there, and you might have too much. But it's quite exciting seeing the speckles appear on your yarn. Then the yarn all goes into an oven to, I'm not sure what for, but it goes into an oven to be cooked. It's not really cooked, is it? Probably helps the dye set or take to the fabric fibres for about 20 minutes. And then it comes out, and all of the yarn in the tray gets turned over. And the back, it's surprising how light the back of the yarn is, and the dye hasn't always penetrated down into it. And then you repeat the whole process again on the other side of the yarn. And we all made one 100-gram skein for ourselves to take away, and then you also make 18 from the yarn in your tray. 18 mini skeins get made, so everybody gets to take away one mini skein of every person's yarn from the yarn dyeing weekend. So I'll show you now what my finished skein looked like, and this is it. So as you can see, there's still quite a bit of white. I had wondered about doing a white speckle, but Nick said not to worry about that because you'd get white anyway from the where the dye rather hadn't met the fibre. So we, as I said, we did like a 2-stage process with the dyeing. So we did one side, then the other side. But when they want to get their yarns really saturated with dye, they do it, I think it was like 4 or 6 times in total. But for the purposes of the weekend, we could only do it twice, or it would have taken too long. We wouldn't have all got a chance to dye. But yeah, this is it. You can see the little black speckles in there too. And yeah, I'm really pleased with how that turned out. I'll show you now. So when we all got presented with our yarn on Sunday morning, which was super exciting, and then everybody headed into the Lay Family Yarn shop to choose more yarn to buy. So I went in, and I'd had a look around on the Saturday as well to see what they had and get some ideas, but I wanted to wait until I actually had it to hold and to see in front of me, to hold yarn next to it, see how it would look. So I got this skein of, it's called Teal Deal, to go with it, and I think it's really Christmassy, really nice contrast, and I'm gonna use these to knit at least 1, possibly 2 pairs of socks for Christmas. I'm gonna mainly this colour, but then the green for the toes, cuffs and heels. Also, when I got home, I found I'd previously ordered online a whole bunch of really diddy skeins from Lay Family Yarn because I wanted to choosing some colours for another project. I've also got this pale pink colour, which I think actually goes with them quite well. So I was wondering about adding that in some way. And where's it gone? I've also got, I think this is probably overkill, but I've also got this aubergine coloured sock yarn from Peak District Yarns, which also goes really well. So I think I've got lots of options here for making a really nice pair of festive socks. The question is, do I keep it simple and just go for 2 colours, or do I add in some other colours into the mix as well? Because I think they all go together well, but I'm not quite sure how to arrange them all and share them out. Let me know if you've got any thoughts about that and which colours I should use and how to arrange them. Because one idea, saw a pair of socks where, as well as having the cuff, heel and toe as a contrast colour, on the leg there was also, I think, like 3 or 4 thin stripes of the contrast colour as well, which I thought looked really nice. So I could potentially add in pink or green stripes somewhere. We shall see. Anyway, now I've shown this to you, I can ball it all up, and maybe this evening I will cast on socks. I'm thinking, because I want to get them done by Christmas, I'm thinking I might knit them 2 at a time, and also that will help me make sure I remember how many rows I do of each one. So I might, yeah, I think I'll do that 2 at a time, and then that should hopefully keep me on track to finish both of them in time for Christmas, because it would just be sad, wouldn't it, to have one sock finished and the other one not finished. I think better not to, it's almost better not to finish any than to have one finished and one not. So yeah, I'm going to do them 2 at a time. That's the plan. I have to split the yarn though, then, won't I? But I think that's not a problem, is it? Anyway, that's my thinking at the moment. So that was my yarn, and then I'll show you the yarn, everyone else's yarn as well. So as I said, you get a mini skein of everyone else's yarn, and the mini skeins are given to you in a bouquet. They call it a bouquet of mini skeins. Isn't that beautiful? So there's should be, I've not counted them, there's 18 mini skeins here. This one, yeah, that's my one. So there's a couple of other reddish ones. So lovely purple one, and then lots of pinks and blues and greens, another lighter purple, this gorgeous sort of biscuity gingery one, this really nice muted one. So lots of mini skeins here. And so when I was on the weekend, there was a lady opposite me who'd been on the previous weekend, and she had the bunch of mini skeins. She didn't still have it in a bunch, but she had the mini skeins from that weekend, and she was knitting a sweater with them, with mainly one solid background colour, and then she was putting in stripes from all of the mini skeins from that weekend, and it looked really good. And I thought that I really like that idea of having one main colour and then interspersing it with stripes or pops of the mini skeins as a way to use them all, because I think firstly it showed off each individual mini skein really well. You could see them really separately. Well, that was the main reason really, compared to if you put all of these together and use them sort of adjacent to each other. I think having that separation between them really showed them off really well, and I really like that idea. But I wasn't about to knit a sweater with 4-ply yarn, because that would take me probably a decade to complete. So my idea was, I was thinking I didn't want to be too ambitious and have another knitting project, because I'm a very slow knitter, and I've already put now, like I said, one sock project on hold. I've also got a sleeveless jumper that I started last winter, which I really want to pick up again in terms of knitting. So I didn't want to plan another knitting project, so I was thinking I'm going to crochet them this time, because that will be a lot quicker for me, and crochet is just quicker anyway. So I'm thinking my plan is to make a crochet scarf. So I got this dark bluey grey called Battleships, and I'm going to make a scarf with this as the main colour, and then interspersed with pops of all of these. And I think, because some of these are quite bright, I think they'll show up, even the light ones obviously, I think all of these will contrast and show up really well against the Battleships yarn. So I don't know when I'll start it, because I really want to get the socks finished by Christmas, and there's other projects I want to finish. So I'm going to hold off a little while before starting this, but hopefully I'll finish it before the end of the winter and be able to wear it a bit. But I mean, even if I don't, I'll definitely have it ready for next winter, and I think it'll be really fun introducing in all these different colours as I go. So I'm really looking forward to making that with the yarn from the retreat, and it'll also be a nice sort of memory of it as well. So that's the last thing I have to share with you today. The other thing that's been going on this month, for me, which has been really exciting, has been the Christmas crochet along with Sirdar, the Christmas blankets Cal, which I talked about in my last podcast, but the Cal itself had it started? I can't remember now. Might have done, yeah. Anyway, I spoke about it a lot in the last podcast. I think I filmed the last podcast before the crochet along started. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I think I filmed it just before it started. So the crochet along is well underway now, and we're nearly at the end. The final part is coming out next week. Unfortunately, for various reasons at Sirdar, there's been a delay in the releasing of the final part of the pattern, which I know some people have contacted me, and this is a real shame for them, because they were working to a deadline for finishing their blankets. So if this delay has affected you, I'm so sorry about this, but it was completely out of my hands, and unfortunately there was just, despite everyone doing their best, there was just nothing that could be done about it. But apart from that, I mean, that is, I've been feeling a bit sad and about that this week, because it is a real shame to have that happen right near the end of the Cal. I think for the majority of people though, it's not too much of an issue, because we are still quite away from Christmas, and lots of people don't, probably the majority of people don't keep up in these sorts of crochet alongs anyway and take a bit longer. But for those where it is an issue, I'm really sorry, and I hope that you're able to finish your blankets anyway, perhaps modifying things a little bit or basing it on the photos if you need to still get them done before the part 6 of the pattern comes out. But yeah, apart from that, this week, which has sort of taken the shine off it a little bit, it has been really good fun, and I've really enjoyed seeing everyone's blankets being made. Lots of people are following the pattern and using the official yarn pack and exactly the same colours. But then what's been really fun to see has been people who are changing things up a bit, because crochet it's great, isn't it, for changing things. Once you've learnt the basics, you can think, oh, I really like that, but I want to do this a bit differently. And I think on this blanket in particular, it really lends itself to people personalising it and making it their own. So, for example, on the nice list, people have put certain names or dates that are special to them. And on the train itself with the presents, although it's designed with specific toys, lots of people have, if they're making it for someone in particular who really likes a certain toy or object, they've changed up some of the toys. So I've seen dinosaurs, aliens, there's a ball on it on my design, but one person did, I think, a collection of 3 different balls for different sports. There's just been different things appearing on the train, and so it's been really nice, people taking the idea and then personalising it and making it their own. And of course lots of people have used different colours as well, so it's always nice seeing from a design worked up in different colours as well, because it can really transform it and give it a totally different feel. So final part's coming out next week. I'm really looking forward to seeing people's finished blankets, and if you've been taking part in the crochet along, I hope you've been enjoying it. And the pattern, if you've not been taking part, the pattern is available for free on Sirdar's website. I'll pop a link below, and there's also free YouTube tutorials taking you through everything each week, and that will be available indefinitely. So you're welcome to get the pattern and start crocheting it and making it at any time at all. So that's about it for this month rather. Thank you for watching and spending some time with me. Do drop a note in the comments and say hi if you've been watching. It'd be lovely to hear from you. Let me know what you've been working on, or where you're watching from. I'd really love to hear from you. But otherwise, I hope you have a wonderful few weeks until next time. Hopefully I'll fit in another podcast before Christmas. We'll have to see. It always gets a bit crazy in December, doesn't it? But hopefully I will. That's the plan at the moment anyway. But whenever I see you again, I hope you have a wonderful time working on your crochet and knitting, and I will see you all again next time. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.